Is this the best alternative to the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid? Well, it is hybrid. It's a mid-size SUV. It costs less than most RAV4 hybrids, has a longer warranty than the RAV4 Hybrid, and it also has a lot going for it in terms of standard equipment. It looks pretty good too. Stay tuned and I'm going to tell you all about it in this review. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing, and if you are, please do hit like and subscribe. It helps a lot. Thanks. At the time of filming, there's only one hybrid version available of the H6, and it's $45,990 drive away. Now that seems like a lot of money, but you're getting a lot of technology and equipment as standard for your money. You get these LED lights with this different looking front end, which is obviously separating it from the regular H6 models. You get 19-inch alloy wheels, one of the biggest sunroofs I've ever come across in a car of this size. You get the fake leather interior trim, heated and cooled front seats. There's electric front seat adjustment. You also get things like Apple CarPlay and also digital screens. So 2 different digital screens inside the cabin, USB charging throughout. There's plenty of stuff on offer in this car. And when it comes to where it sits in the model range, well, it's at the top. So if you want to spend less, there are a bunch of different H6s available from as little as $33,990. So if you don't need hybrid and you don't want to spend the extra money to get it, then there's other options in this lineup which might be right for you. In case you haven't noticed, I've already called out the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid as the most obvious alternative to this car, and it's also the best alternative. Honestly, it's a fantastic family SUV. There's a really good reason that the wait times are so long for that car. 12 to 18 months, depending on what spec you're buying, is the current numbers that we're seeing. So yeah, you're gonna have to want it if you wanna wait around for it, but this might be a really good alternative. It's gonna be more readily available than a RAV4. So what about other alternatives? Well, there are a few if you are willing to spend more and you're open to the idea of a plug-in hybrid. So there's the Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid, which I think is a fantastic SUV, but you're going to pay a fair bit more to get into it. There's also MG HS Plus EV. Now that's what they call their plug-in hybrid, and it is relatively affordable too. Maybe not as roomy as this car though. Other options include a non-plug-in hybrid model, the Subaru Forester Hybrid. Hit the link at the top of your screen to see my review of the Forester range. I don't love the hybrid version, and I don't think it's as efficient as it could be, but it might be the right car for you. The Haval H6 is about the same size as most other mid-size SUVs. It's just on 4.6-ish meters long, so it is about what you would expect for this class of car. It's only a 5-seater, there is no 7-seat version available, and that could be a reason that it might rule it out for you. Some other mid-size SUVs about this size do have 7 seats available. One thing I'm really a big fan of is this massive strip light that runs across the back of the tailgate here, but I don't love the badging. I think that badge is just huge. It's one of the first things I would get rid of if I was buying one of these. And I don't also love that there are exposed screw points where you would normally put a Chinese number plate, and obviously this isn't China, this is Australia, and that's the sort of size of number plate that you're dealing with here. So yeah, it could look a little bit better at the back, but you can make up your own mind. Anyway, let's check out the boot. Boot space in the Haval H6 is identical whether you choose the hybrid or non-hybrid versions, according to GWM Haval, that is. And it's 600 litres of cargo capacity, which is quite a lot by class standards. Now, it doesn't look that big to me, but there is some cleverness to this boot space. There is a lift-up section, and underneath there you'll find a tyre repair kit. And if you lift up the foam bit underneath, which makes a lovely noise, you'll find the 12-volt battery, but also the lithium-ion battery pack for the hybrid system. So there's a lot packaged into this boot area, and it still manages to be a pretty practical family option. Nice. Sitting in the cabin of the H6 Ultra Hybrid, you don't feel like you're sitting in a cheap Chinese car. And look, I know 46 grand or whatever it is isn't cheap in most people's books, but it is still an affordable SUV for a family, and it does feel a bit more special than you might expect that sort of car to feel. And a lot of that comes down to the materials that have been used, and also these screens. They look fantastic, they're high definition. They are a little bit tricky to get used to, and there are some elements of them that aren't as clever or as, I guess, intuitive as they should be, including the fact that there are no knobs or dials for the volume controls or tuning, so everything has to actually be done through the screen. Likewise, these seats, they are heated and cooled, and you have to adjust that through the screen as well. If you're the sort of person who just plugs in their phone to Apple CarPlay, oh, the USB port's down here, by the way, then you might find that it's going to be okay because you just plug in and it comes up with what you want it to. And if you don't have to adjust the temperature or the seat controls or whatever it may be, then you might think that it's just going to be easy to live with. But if you're the sort of person who likes to fiddle with the settings of the car a lot, like me, then going in and out of this screen and not having those little simple buttons and controls and dials for the climate control, for instance, can be a little bit annoying. Look, there are hard buttons down here and none of them have the things that you might want. There is no adjustment for temperature, for example. These could be better, this could be better, but it's still pretty good, I would say. There's also a smaller screen in front of the driver, and it's a high definition one as well. It looks great, it's very easy to read, it's relatively easy to interact with, and there's also a display on there so you can keep an eye on your speed, but also the status of the powertrain, so whether it's running in battery mode or whatever it may be. The steering wheel has this nice material finish. I don't think that's leather, but it does have a really hard edge to the rim, which if you're driving for a couple of hours, that could actually start to hurt your hands. Now, storage is very good. You've got a couple of cup holders here. There's a wireless phone charger here. There's also a section underneath this section here for extra storage. And you've got a big covered center console bin. There's bottle holders in the doors too. And also, I mentioned this massive sunroof. My daughter thinks this is the coolest car because it's got this massive sunroof. Anyway, let's check out the back seat. One thing the GWM model range does really well is backseat space. So this seat is set for me at 182 centimeters or 6 foot tall. I got heaps of knee room to sit behind with heaps of foot room, loads of headroom. They're nice big door openings as well. It's just a very accommodating space back here, and the seat comfort is exceptional. It's a nice squishy seat. A lot of seats in the backs of SUVs these days are quite hard. This one, not at all. It's very comfy. Here's some footage of my baby's seat in the passenger side rear, and yes, it was easy to fit. There's plenty of space for the person in front as well. There's dual ISOFIX points in the window seats. You've got 3 top tether points too, so all the kid stuff is taken care of. There are directional air vents back here too, a couple of USB charge ports as well. There's little lights up here as well next to the grab handles, which is a nice thing to have. It helps you see what you're doing at night time when you are getting a kid in and out. And that's partly because of this massive sunroof, as I said. It's huge, like it goes behind my head. It's massive and I love it. And I don't usually love sunroofs, so that's weird. A couple of map pockets on the seat backs, bottle holders in the doors, a flip down armrest with cup holders. So everything that you would want is taken care of in the back seat of the Haval H6. It's even got a pretty flat floor, so you could fit 3 adults across here. Yeah, well done, Haval. Under the bonnet of the H6 Hybrid is a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine. Now it is teamed to a 2-speed transmission and an electric motor, which is obviously teamed up to the battery pack at the back of the car. You'll see the power and torque figures on your screen now. Yeah, that's a lot of power and torque to get just through the front tyres down to the ground. So if you want all-wheel drive, you can get an all-wheel drive H6, but you have to buy the Ultra spec, which is non-hybrid. The other versions with that same 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine and 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission are front-wheel drive. I can see the appeal in those versions because they are significantly cheaper. I just don't think that that powertrain drives anywhere near as nicely as this one does. I'll tell you more about that in the driving section. So what's this H6 Hybrid like to drive? Well, I reckon it's pretty impressive, in fact. I like the fact that it is so refined. It is a very, very easy car to live with in low speed situations. And if you do a lot of that like I do, then you're going to enjoy it because There's electric push from a standstill, and you will feel the hybrid system kick the petrol engine into action if it thinks it needs to. But in most situations at low speeds, when you're just taking away from an intersection, you're going to do it in EV mode. And that's really quite pleasant. I mean, it's not unusual. Other hybrids do the same thing, but this one just seems to be pretty refined in the way that it behaves. I've read other reviews that say that, you know, it's a bit unrefined, but I disagree. I think it's a pretty well sorted hybrid powertrain. Because you've got a turbo petrol engine and an electric motor and battery pack, and you've got so much power and torque available to you, it is very quick. If you put your foot down, it pushes away with some serious force, and it can also at times spin the front tires because it's got so much torque that it's trying to get to the surface. They aren't bad tires, but I don't think any tires can contain this much torque. Yeah, as you can tell, that was just gentle throttle out of an intersection, and it's a bit of a concern. If you're not certain and you're not a confident driver, then you might find it a little bit scary. The steering is mostly fine, it's got pretty good weighting to it, but I think that the turning circle is quite large for a car of this size, so low speed moves can be a little bit tedious. And when it comes to the suspension and the ride comfort, it's mostly okay. There are some instances where it can get a little bit patchy and bumpy, and that's when you find patchy, bumpy surfaces on the road. So at higher speeds, it settles down pretty nicely though. My biggest dislike with this car is the brake pedal feel. Like a lot of hybrids, it does have a bit of an odd actuation of the pedal, so you sort of feel like it's not going to stop, and then you have to really press on the brake to make it stop. So that might be something you have to get used to. I've found that I did get used to it, but it's still a little bit disconcerting at times. Let's talk fuel efficiency. It's the hybrid, so it should be efficient, right? Well, the official number is 5.2 litres per 100 Ks for the hybrid, which is more than a RAV4 hybrid, more than the plug-in hybrid alternatives that I mentioned, but less than a Subaru Forester hybrid. And it is still pretty good if you consider it against the non-hybrid versions of the Haval H6. You'll see the figures on your screen now, the official combined cycle figures for both the two-wheel drive and all-wheel drive versions of the non-hybrid H6. So that's a bit of context for you. And if you're wondering what I've seen across my week of testing in this car, well, that figure's on your screen now. Do you think I was impressed with that? Let me know in the comments. The Haval H6 range managed the maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating in 2022, so you can rest assured that most models in the range have most of the safety tech that you would expect. Now, there's obviously a bit of loaded language there because the entry-level version doesn't get adaptive cruise control, and the two entry-level versions miss out on rear cross-traffic alert and also rear cross-traffic braking, which will stop the car from reversing if it thinks that something is going to pass through your trajectory. And those are pretty clever bits of tech. They might not be game changers for you though, so it depends what you want. All versions come with autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian, cyclist and junction detection. There's also a lane keeping assist system, and thankfully in this version of a Haval, you can actually turn it off and it'll stay off rather than having to go through the screen to disable that tech every single time. It also doesn't have that really annoying driver camera system, which basically monitors what your eyes are doing and tells you to not be distracted by distracting you. And I like that it doesn't have that. There's also 7 airbags, including dual front, front side, full length curtain and driver's knee coverage. So it's pretty well stacked with safety gear. The GWM Haval range comes with a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty, which is better than most of the mainstream brands and on par with the likes of MG and SsangYong and Kia, obviously. Now, it comes with 5 years of free roadside assist, which is a nice thing to have, and there's a 5-year cap price servicing plan. The service intervals are reasonable at 12 months or 10,000 Ks for the first service, and then every 12 months or 15,000 Ks thereafter. You'll see the average servicing cost annually on your screen now, and I think that's pretty good value. In fact, it looks like a pretty good car to own on paper, at least. More than just a compelling alternative to the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid, I reckon the Haval H6 Hybrid is the best car they make. Well, the ones that I've driven on the road anyway. It's a fantastic option for people who are looking for a petrol-electric alternative to the SUV crowd. I wouldn't choose the non-hybrid version of this car. I don't like the powertrain in the entry-level versions. The hybrid's where it's at, if you can afford it. Let me know in the comments section what you would do. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.